If you have said to yourself, I should write that, or if someone has said to you, you should write that, then I'm talking to you because you need to write. And that's why you're tuned in to Why Write. Hi, welcome to Why Write. I'm your host, Angela Grout. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Why Write, where of course we're finding out why writers are writing their stories and sharing them. And they're going to share the process of how they've written their book so that you can start writing your story too. So today I have in studio Gina Biskupic from Agawam, Massachusetts, and we're going to talk to her about a book that she just wrote. Gina has 30 years experience as an ASHA certified speech and language pathologist. She is the owner of the Comprehensive Speech and Language Services, which is a private speech therapy practice. She enjoys researching health and disease topics as well as cooking for her friends and family. She didn't bring anything in today that she cooked, but she did cook up a really good book. She has just published her first book called No Fault of His Own, and we're going to talk to her about that, about her writing, and how it ties into her practice. So I want to welcome to the show, Gina.
Thank you.
Hi, Gina. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
So I have to say, I have been talking about you for years. The first episode I ever did of Why Write, I had Bruce Landon on, and Bruce is a friend of yours.
He is.
And after the show, he said, Angela, I got to get you to talk to this girl, Gina. She wants to write a book. Maybe you can help her out. And, lo and behold, we connected. We had a nice little short
lunch.
Breakfast and lunch at Little George's in West Springfield. Yeah. And you were at the
very beginning
of this process of actually writing a book, and here it is. Your baby.
Fully
How did that feel to hold that?
It was surreal for sure. I opened the first box with my sister in my sister's kitchen, and I didn't have the reaction that I thought I was going. I thought I was just going to be so excited, but I opened it with such trepidation. Yeah. I just didn't know how to respond. So I almost had no response. Yeah. And my sister's like, enjoy it. This is a moment for you. I'm like, I was just very quiet, and it was very different. But I will say the first thing we both noticed was I was like, oh, it's thick. I was like, I didn't expect, I expected it to be much thinner.
Really? Well, you knew how many pages it was. You knew the word count.
Novice. So I wrote 223-ish Word document pages.
Okay.
I did not know when they format it.
Yeah.
It turns out much different. Originally, when the publishing company, the formatter, sent it back to me, and it was like,
who did you use for publishing?
Palmetto Publishing out of South Carolina.
Okay. And
when they first sent the first formatted version back to me, it was almost 500 pages. And I was like, that's way too long. It just can't be that.
A lot of people don't read books that are that long.
No. Yeah. And so I was like, oh, God. And they're like, can you shorten it down? And I was like, can you widen a margin? Can you so we did. We widened the margins. We shrunk the font a half a point. I did take out some things because I thought, I hope the writing is good, but will people go to the end? Will they finish it? And I really, really wanted people to finish it. It is a emotional journey, but I needed people to get to the end because it's a very different emotion at the end than the beginning or middle. And I wanted people to get there to the end.
Nice. So let's talk about Palmetto. How did you find your publishing company?
I attended a Women in Publishing conference online. It was 4 days of meeting with agents and publishing companies, connections for traditional publishing, hybrid publishing, and independent publishing. And what I learned was traditional publishing is probably not going to happen for me. And I knew my story, And I knew that I needed to get it out there. I'd been working on it for 2 years. I knew I needed to get it out there fast.
I mean, self-publishing, independent publishing, hybrid publishing is the way to do that. And in this, day and age,
there's a lot out there.
There's a lot out there to do that. And I 100% agree with you, because the traditional publishers, unless you already have that big name, big following, they're not interested. Doesn't even matter what the topic of the book is.
Yeah.
And, and it's difficult to and it's not even so much break into that industry. It just I mean, they could take this and say, okay, well, we're going to publish it, in November of 2027 because of their way their schedule is. So, I get it. Like,
just for
get it out
frame,
there.
I knew I wanted to get it out there. And if I did, I'm still going to query agents, but I knew that if I only did a traditional route, it may never, ever be published. It may never get out there. And then not so much what I put into it, but the message that I was trying to convey will never be out there.
And so we'll break into your message a little bit now, because No Fault of His Own, I mean, is it an emotional family ride story that... I'll let you talk about it.
It is a family drama. It is a medical mystery. It is a love story. It is a story about friendships and trials and tribulations in a marriage. It has elements of 80s classic rock music. It's a throwback to a different time in this family's life, and when they are struck with, at middle age, on the cusp of being empty nesters, the husband in this story, he just really starts to act differently. And he is, throughout the beginning of the story, he is a gregarious, happy-go-lucky, full of energy, hilariously funny. Physical comedy is kind of his thing. He's a huge sports lover. He's a Vikings fan. He and his wife have this battle between, he's a Vikings fan, she's a Buffalo Bills fan. There's a ton of sports references in there. And he just is not himself.
And how old is he at this point?
He is 57 at this point.
Yeah.
And so one of the main reasons I wanted to write the story is because he does have an illness, but it is so hard to diagnose. And the medical mystery is really not for the reader. The medical mystery is trying to help his wife figure out what is happening. And I mean, there's elements of depression, anxiety, addiction, and through no fault of the doctors either, they are treating symptoms that they see. And they start with a primary care doctor, and he's just not making progress, and he tends to just be getting worse and worse. And the scenarios that happen for them are life altering. Like, what is happening? Our family is crumbling, our marriage is unraveling, and she's, she gets to a point, the main character gets to a point where she's just like, I might be out of this. Like, you're behaving really badly.
Yeah, when health issues take on, especially, I want to say, like an emotional and mental kind of crisis, it's different than sometimes you're, have a broken leg, getting a knee replacement, that kind of physical ailment that someone can kind of help and nurture. But when it's something that's internal and you don't know what it is to try to help someone, it's very difficult.
Yeah. And when the behaviors start to spill out of the house into friendships and jobs and your finances and community establishments and people in the community, when everybody starts to take notice, that's when the story just goes.
Now, what kind of community is this set in? Fictional?
This is a fictional story.
How did you create your fictional world?
So this is a fictional story inspired by true medical events. So I created it around a really small town, close-knit community in Pennsylvania.
Okay. Because you were using a pen and you were inspired and said, I need a state, Pennsylvania.
So the story is close to my heart because it is a story that was inspired by a family that is related to my own family, my husband's family. And just for the privacy of the family, I changed everything. And I took bits and pieces from their story, but created a world unto its own.
Right. Yeah. That's what we do. I mean,
yeah.
And it's very tricky to try to keep your characters straight, especially when they're based off of someone.
Yeah. I think it
real.
might have been easier to write a story that it was completely out of my head. But I felt like the medical information, as a speech pathologist, I wanted it to be an entertaining story, but I also wanted it to be a message of education for primary care physicians, for marriage counselors, for human resources officers, for PTOT speech caregivers, for families.
Great audience.
Yeah, so I wrote a lot of different pieces in there. I wrote it for siblings. I wrote it for
that's a big audience to be thinking about while you're writing.
Oh my gosh, I held it in here for like 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, how am I going to get to everybody? So,
and were you able? So did you do like an outline for this, for the story itself, or did you make your notes on these are the topics I want to touch on?
I am very cerebral, and I did an outline in my head. I didn't put anything down on paper for like the first 8 months in terms of an outline. I am what they call a pantser.
And you're learning all these terms,
I'm
right?
learning that.
Like, yeah, let's just sit and binge.
I didn't know that until so a pantser is someone who just kind of writes and flies by the seat of their pants. And I didn't know I was that until I did a writing conference. And I learned that, and I'm like, okay, this is my style.
Yeah.
And I had I remember being in college, I would write whole reports in my head
before it comes out,
and then like binge that night before it was due and just crank it out. But I would spend weeks writing it and formulating it in my head. So I did that for like the first 8 months, and the story I realized was just so big, and I was like, I'm never going to finish this if I don't really start buckling down.
And there comes a point where you have to start getting it out of your head, because you're trying to put all these files, you have like corkboard in your head, and it's like tick, 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 and then it's like, okay, I have to start seeing this, manifesting on a paper. So, and I totally get
boards.
it. Yeah, the boards.
Everywhere.
And I just did an episode a couple before this, on how I wrote April Rain, and I brought out some of the little boards with all my notes and stuff just to show people. I kept them all.
I have them. I'm like, what do I do with it now?
I don't know. And I say this all the time. I go, what do you do with all the drafts? And I mean, and as much as I will write as a pantser, and I do write from prompts too. I mean, I can kind of do it a lot of different ways. But with, especially doing the murder mystery April Rain, like I would, you just get that, you're like, okay, I got to sit down and I got to write this, and then I would write it out, and then I would rework it into the story. But what do I do with those pages that, I did that too? And I'm like, do I just get rid of them now? I don't know what to do.
I have many drafts.
Yeah. And it's...
Or the notes, did you do notes in your phone? I'd be driving and literally dictating paragraphs. I'm like, that's what it needs. When it comes to you, you just have to do it.
So many times. And then what I would do, and you probably did this, like after I dictate it into the notes, then I email it to myself. So then I have it. Then I'm printing it, killing a tree, Because then I'm like, okay, now I have this printed. And of course, when you're dictating, depending, what mood you're in or where you are, you sometimes forget to say period and comma and it's just this one long run-on sentence. And then, of course, Surrey changes some of the words. So then when you're looking at it, you're like, what? Oh, that's not what but we know. And it's very helpful to do because, and songwriters can really relate to what we're doing, talking about dictating, because when that inspiration, that song comes to you, like, I always say music floats through the air, and if you don't catch it, like
Right.
fishing, like it can be gone.
Yeah.
So
I often would dream about the story,
I'm so glad you say that.
and I ended up just keeping a notepad and a pen next to my bed because I would wake up, not so much in the middle of the night, but in the morning. I was just like, okay, I need to get this down because I've sorted something out
Yep.
for a character, for a scene. And I thought, okay, it finally
And you're
came
doing
to me,
all
but
this
that
while you're
surprised
working
me.
full time.
So I was running the practice,
Yep.
and when I hit around that 8-month mark where I was just like, I can't do all of this. It's never going to get finished. I started to tailor back on the practice, and I stopped taking new clients and kind of finished out clients. And once I finished everybody's therapy appropriately, I have not taken new clients. I am currently still on hiatus promoting the book. So I have been on hiatus about 2 years.
Wow.
Completely dedicated to the book.
Wow.
Yeah. The company is still there, and I'll pick it up again. But I want to give the book, I want it to grow legs, and I want the messages to get out there.
Yeah.
So this, do you want me to tell the...
Sure, if you want to talk about the story, that's fine.
So the ultimate reason that I wrote it was that one of the main characters is ultimately diagnosed with FTD, frontotemporal degeneration. It is a type of dementia, and there are several branches underneath that. So frontotemporal dementia can be a behavioral variant, it can be a speech and language variant, and then there's a motor neuron variant. So my story is about the behavioral variant.
Yeah, and I mean, it's very helpful for people to see what the character goes through, possibly in order to, relate to something going on in their life. And I can see why it's be very helpful for physicians and things like that. Yeah. So, trying to bring all of that in is a huge undertaking.
It was big. It was way bigger than I expected.
How long did it take you once that 8 months of, working it in your mind to sit down and start writing? And did you handwrite it? Did you type it? Did you write it in order? Did you write it out of order?
I wrote it out of order. I wrote a lot on paper. I wrote a lot on Word docs and printed them. I am so hands-on. Yep. I needed to see it, and then I would rework it and then put it back into the original Word doc. I took about a year and a half of dedicated writing, and like the last 6 months, I don't think I really did much except that. Like I really checked out and went into a zone, and my family was going on around me, like big things. I have 2 adult children now. Big things were happening in our family, and I was trying to be present, but I knew this was 24/7, like in my head, and I was like, I need to get this done.
Yeah. I totally relate to that, because I mean, it is trying to balance every day and being present, but in your head, you're in that story.
Yeah.
Because that story isn't written, and it's calling.
A calling, or even like it's heavy in my head. I needed to get it out. Yeah. Which I hadn't felt anything like that before. I was used to writing clinical report. I've been writing clinical speech and language evaluations.
So you have a lot of experience writing, but this is
this was completely different. Yeah.
And I remember even, writing out of order and then having all the chapters spread out, and then figuring out what order it goes in, and then having to rework it because you have to make sure you introduce your characters. Did you have an editor who helped you out, or
I did have an editor at the end.
Okay.
Yeah. I did not have an editor while I was writing. Okay. It is all me. Yeah. With the help of some family members who I did a lot of interviews, and I did a lot of research. So with FTD, during my private practice, I had previously worked for over 10 years in nursing homes and rehab centers. I have worked on locked dementia units. I was very familiar with dementia, with Alzheimer's. Yeah. And when my children were little, I went into the school system And then as my children grew, I started the private practice. So my practice is pretty much pediatrics.
Oh, okay.
So when this story came and I knew that I was going to write it, my shifted back to
what you did before.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it wasn't geriatric because FTD is an early onset type of dementia. So that's part of the reason it is often misdiagnosed.
Which is so nice hearing he's in his 50s and that's not geriatric.
No, that's not geriatric.
Sometimes I feel like I'm categorized as geriatric.
So
mature
age.
We're
That's
mature.
Right. We are. So that is part of the reason that it is misdiagnosed. And ultimately, those first line providers, marriage counselors, HR, primary care physicians, PAs, we're not, they come in with these symptoms that you can kind of explain away, and we're not really looking for dementia in 50-year-old people.
Right.
And typically, it takes about 3.5 years, according to the AFTD, the Association for Frontotemporal Degeneration. And they...
Well, and diagnosing someone with dementia really is like we talked about, like the big umbrella. So it's a very easy way to say, oh, he has a little bit of dementia. And it's like, well,
they don't even get there. It looks like depression. It looks like anxiety, addictions, food addictions. There's a real strong oral component. So food addictions, sex addictions, gambling, stealing. And it's because there is no regulation. There's no
impulse control.
There's no impulse control.
No filters.
It's those frontal lobe.
Interesting. It almost, resembles a little bit of like a manic depressant or something, like the way you're talking, with bipolar, having these, just unquieted mind, but not having that filter when you're doing things or saying things.
I think there's similar symptoms, but I think the diseases are very, very vastly different.
Wow.
I think the biggest difference between FTD and Alzheimer's, and they are both under the dementia umbrella, is that for most people with FTD, the cognitive impairment can be the same, but it's the memory. So for people with FTD, memory is usually preserved until later in the progression of the disease.
Okay.
So someone can still kind of be functioning a little bit in those early stages, and it truly just looks like odd behavior. So very, very different. It's not like someone's getting lost. They can't find their keys.
Right. I understand that.
And the different types of FTD are vastly different from each other as well. It's a really fascinating disease.
Yeah,
I've done a ton of research. And
you
then
love research, so that's probably a lot of fun to do.
That was fun.
And then what do you do with all those notebooks, right? After you've taken all those notes and done
notes, print,
yes,
everything. That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I have a whole little scrapbook of things I've cut out of newspapers, and taped on here and there. Like, okay, that was interesting. I can use that. Maybe, I don't know, or it's something you have to retain.
And it's there, but sometimes I never go back and look at it.
Yes.
But it's comforting to know that it's there if I need it.
Absolutely. So you're writing and doing things like every day. Are you better in the morning? Or are you better in the night? Or because you're a pantser, it's wherever it hits you.
It's wherever it hits me.
In the car line.
I wrote in every square inch of my home. Libraries, coffee shops. I found that if the house is quiet, I could, if I got into a zone, it took me like an hour to get into the zone.
Wow.
If there are no distractions and I get into the zone, I could go 6 or 8 hours. And that's when I started to be the most productive and crank it out and then be completely exhausted.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the day.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, it's always so interesting to talk to someone who's, written a book and had it in their head for so long and got it out. Your head must feel so much lighter now.
So much lighter. Yeah.
And now you're, doing, kind of, I'm going to call it your book tour. You've been doing a lot of great fundraising for the
AFTD.
I'm thinking flowers thing. FTD
it's not delivery. It's
floral deliveries.
Yeah.
No, that's my floral life back there. But you're doing great fundraisers for them when you're doing your book signings. And you've been all over the place. Where can they find out where you're going to be for a book signing or book talks, and where can they find their book?
So I am going to be doing a book signing next Thursday at Shortstop Bar and Grill in Westfield. That is 5 to 7.
Okay.
And I have a couple dates coming up for the South Shore of Boston, North Shore of Boston.
Do you have these listed on your website or social media?
I have. My team is getting them together. I have ones that I've already done, and then as they become set in stone, they will be on all my socials. So I am on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Instagram is author_Gina_Biskupic.
Okay.
And LinkedIn is just Gina Biskupic. All my credentials are there, the history of what I've done. I am posting about new book signings, author talks that are coming.
So I'll put all the links here so that
Yep.
everybody can find those and find out where you're going to be if they want to come meet you and get
Yes,
your autograph
I
on
would
the
love
book.
that. Signed copies are
And the
available.
book is available on Amazon?
The book is available in paperback and ebook. It has been distributed globally, but it is on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, online, Amazon,
And your
Barnes
publisher
& Noble,
did that for you?
and Walmart.com. Yeah, the publisher did everything.
That's good.
I knew where to cut my
Well,
my learning experiences.
Yeah.
Like, this was enough for me.
And are they
did
helping you with
everything.
doing book signings and things like that, or that's all like your?
That is all they did in the very beginning. They did a newswire that went out globally, and they've helped a little bit along the way. And now we're just grassroots hitting the road.
And you can buy books directly from them for an author price for you.
Yes.
And what is the minimum you have to buy? Is there a minimum?
They haven't told me a minimum yet.
Yeah, because it's always interesting to see like who, some people 24, 100, sometimes they're single copies. So that's really good. Well, I'm glad that you found them. I definitely want to put in the links the name of your publisher because people are always asking me, give me a publisher's name. And, and this was a independent publisher or hybrid?
Independent.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, that's a big undertaking for you because that's an expense, but I'm sure you're going to make that money back.
Yeah, it was a passion project. It was, I definitely had a budget, but I knew how I wanted it to be presented, and I knew I was not going to put my name on anything. It's my clinical reputation as well, and I knew I wasn't going to put my name on anything that I could not stand behind.
I'm so happy for you.
Thanks.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. I look forward to reading the
that copy is yours.
The completed story because we talked about it and I heard a lot about it. So, I'm excited for you. So thank you for coming in.
Thanks.
And I want to thank the audience here who's tuned in on wherever you're tuning in. If it's one of the local cable channels, thank you for having this show on. And also, subscribe to the YouTube channel or on Spotify or wherever it's streaming. And, this is a part of the program where I like to give out a writing prompt to you because, you do have a story that you want to tell. And just as Gina has discussed the story that's been brewing in her head for years and years and years, and she mapped it out in her head for 8 months and then sat down and got it on the page. Today's a day we're going to start putting some words on the page. So when the show's over, set your timer for about 10 minutes. And based on the fact that we've been talking about, just ailments and we talked a little bit about dementia, and that's something that is very vast of a spectrum, but we have all heard the term dementia. We do know what it is. So I'm thinking, for our prompt today, I just want you to start the sentence off that says dementia is a scary subject, and then write my hope is that, and I want you to write about your hope for dementia. Like you hope that they'll be a cure. You hope that you never get it. You hope that your family doesn't get it. And then just talk a little bit about what it means to you. And, you could do this with any kind of topic just to get your pen on the page. So I want you to just start writing that story because we want you to come on the show one day and share the story that you have and talk about why you wrote it. So thanks for tuning in to yWrite. My name, again, is Angela Grout, and I will see you next time. Bye.